All right. All right. What is this? Dang, this is only episode 4 of this.
Is it though?
Yeah, because that's what it says. Because the first episode was way back in January. Then we had Arini. And then we had this last episode, which is the first one in this room. And now we're here.
Dang.
It's been busy, man. Been busy.
Okay.
Have I been, though? Really just been doing nothing. Doing a whole lot of nothing, you know?
No, I'm busy.
Is that what you've been doing with your time? Nothing?
No. I've been doing a lot with my time.
Nice. How was your spring break?
It was good, but I was low-key really tired. Like the entire spring break.
You were tired like you needed to take a nap? Or like
yeah,
you
like,
don't want to do anything?
Both.
Like lazy?
Both. Because, you know, like when you go on vacation and it's not really a vacation, like you guys do stuff. Like
yeah,
you go
like so
to
much
like...
going on.
Yeah, it was kind of like that. And then you come back from vacation and you're like tired. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, I need a vacation from the vacation.
Yeah.
That's funny because I usually talk about how I don't like vacations where you go and do nothing. And I think that's because growing up, this isn't to say that like they were bad or anything, but growing up, we took a lot of vacations like that where we were constantly doing stuff. And then we would come home and I'd be like, geez, I'm tired. Like that was a lot. You know, I got to go home and tell about, you know, people about this at recess and stuff. And like, got to get my stories together. But I think that kind of feeds into why I like going to do things. It's like mainly now when I am leaving or going somewhere, it's going to do something. Mm-hmm. But I also like a lot of leeway for like
chill.
Yeah, chill, but also like to just hang out, but also like to do things more spontaneously than I guess by an itinerary. But my spring break was pretty good. It was pretty cool.
What did you do?
Were you about to tell me what I did? You started.
No.
You're like, you went to.
No, I was gonna say psych. We don't care because you had like a fun. You know.
Because I had a fun spring break. We don't care.
No.
Yeah, my spring break was pretty cool. I'm a pretty big fan of stand-up comedy, so I saw 3 shows over spring break. I saw Joe List, I saw Joe DeRosa, and then that following night I saw Mark Norman in Chicago. And that was pretty cool.
Dude, this episode, like all these people here, these 3 people that listen to the podcast.
Hello.
They hear the comedians' names and now they're like blown up. Like this was their start of their like career.
The comedians?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're blowing them up. We're giving them publicity.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw them and that was really cool. And hung out with my aunt's baby. He's cool. He's a cool dude. Little baby John. Little baby John. He's funny. He like bounces a lot. He likes anytime I hold him, he just wants to like jump. He's kind of heavy too, bro. So it's like a workout. It's like I'm doing curls the entire time I'm holding him.
See.
But on Thursday of spring break, I went to Chicago and I was there pretty much all day. I went to the art museum. That was nice. That was neat. Walked around. Looked at farts. Saw a bunch of, what's it called? Van Goghs. I saw some.
Van Gogh was there multiple times.
A couple times. What's that guy?
Which one?
Oh, Picasso, Pablo Picasso. Dude, I stared at his stuff for like 15 minutes and I forgot his name.
His stuff is cool.
Yeah, his stuff is really abstract. It's really cool to like, especially some of his later work, it's cool to try to piece it together, like what he was envisioning. I don't know. It's weird. It's art. You know, you just got to stare at it until it makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Or you stare at it until it looks like it made sense to you, and then you can walk away. That's what what I learned being there. Is if I like stood in front of something and just walked away right away, people are like, "Nah, he doesn't know what he's running the art museum. He doesn't know what he's looking at." So I would go to things and stare at them, and then if I liked it and it made sense to me, I would try to understand the painting, understand the work. And if it didn't make sense to me, I would just stare at it and be like, "What's going on?" Until I felt like, okay, this was enough time to look like I knew what I was looking at. And I didn't, 9 times out of 10.
You just kept walking.
Yeah, unless it was like realism, I didn't know what was happening.
You had like a little timer. All right, good enough.
Yeah, and there was a couple of them. Like I remember there was this one. I thought it was a joke. It was just like a really big, empty wall. So obviously, what was on it was on display, because then there was like a little like description next to it, and it was just a big black canvas. Mm-hmm. That was it. I'm not joking.
In the museum?
Yeah, it was just a big black canvas, and it looked like it was originally a white canvas, and it was like different layers of black, kind of put over it, but kind of like sloppily, like it was like fading off or something. It was just big black canvas, and that was it, and that was the whole exhibit, and people were standing there looking at it.
And you were furious.
Yeah, literally, I was walking around the corner looking at it, and I was like, hell no, dude. And I just kept walking straight, like, in front of the people, too.
You're like, excuse me, get out of my way.
Yeah. But that was cool. And then later, that same day, I went to the Chicago outreach event for the Sports Lawyers Association. And that was cool. I was the first one there. Like, I showed up because I had to use the bathroom, so I went into the restaurant that there was like a restaurant bar that they were hosting it at. Mm-hmm. And we had this area sectioned off. And I showed up and I'm like, oh, I'm here for this event. And they were like, oh, yeah, just go ahead and sit. And I was just sitting there by myself. I was like, wow, what if I'm the only one here? I'm not even a lawyer, let alone a member of this
what
like
are you doing?
association. Yeah. Like, I wasn't even anyone that organized it.
They would have kicked you out.
Nah. The guys that organized it actually showed up kind of late. So, yeah, just saying.
So I want my money back.
Yeah. But what happened there? I met 2 Marquette students. The first 2 people there were actually alumni from Marquette Law, and I was expressing my interest in the school to them, and they kind of answered some questions for me and also told me about their experience. The one girl, she worked for the Orlando Magic for some time in their legal team, and then the other guy that was with her, who was also a Marquette alum, he is a practicing agent right now. He has one client, I think, in the NFL. So that was pretty cool to hear about his experience. And then later on, more people started coming. It started to get pretty full. And then I started bouncing around. I ended up meeting the 2 people that did organize it. And it just so happened that one of them is the chair for the sport law program at Marquette Law.
Damn.
Yeah, so I spent like 30 minutes to an hour talking to him, or speaking with him. Yeah, Professor Matthew Mitten. He was one of the organizers and currently a professor at Marquette Law School and the chair of the sport law program. He was also at one point a sitting board member of the Sports Lawyers Association. So he's, someone to spend 30 minutes at the very least to talk to. And I spent a good time speaking with him about his experience going through law school, coming out of law school, the kind of practice he went into, and like his entry point into sports law was kind of not necessarily direct, because he did a lot of like antitrust work and work for corporations, and I think he did some work for Coca-Cola against a couple lawsuits against Pepsi. Actually, that was a pretty cool story he told me. And then he just ventured into, I believe he just started writing a sport law textbook, which is the one that he uses now. And he ended up coming to Marquette, becoming a professor there, and yeah. So he has a pretty cool story and did what?
I was going to say, did you meet him? Or did you know who he was before or after you guys had a conversation?
No, after. Like, yeah, I was like kind of just doing the rounds, just trying to meet people and see who's there. And it was him, another guy who is I think he works more for like the marketing side and like brand deals with sport companies. Because he was telling me that he did work with the NFL and that he was at the Miami Grand Prix last year because he did some work with Formula One. He does some MLB work. So he was in this circle of people, and then there's this other girl who is works for the legal team for the Chicago Fire. Oh, and then the head legal person for the Chicago Fire was also there, and I don't remember that she was Marquette related as well, but I remember she spent some time talking with me about law school. But yeah, in that circle of people was just those 2, and then he was there, and I kind of just shouldered myself into their conversation. But that's kind of like the vibe of it. You kind of go up and let yourself, I guess, be introduced in conversation and kind of bring yourself into that kind of thing. So yeah, kind of shouldered my way in, and then kind of in the break of them talking, I had met the one guy that worked with the F1 team before. And then I introduced myself to the lady, and she was very nice. And then he introduced himself to me, and I go, "Oh, you're this guy? You know, I have a very big interest in your law school." And then we kind of separated off and had our own conversation. But yeah, that was really cool. And I followed up with an email. That's a CRSM trick I learned. You know, it's that came straight from high school.
You're wearing the shirt.
Yeah, and Crystal Ray St. Martin College Prep. Shout out. It's their 20-year anniversary this year. Right?
Shout out.
Is it 20 or 25? I think
20.
Yeah, shout out them. That's a trick I learned in my corporate work study days at CRSM. So I sent him a follow-up email. I appreciated him for his time and listening to all the questions that I had and answering them earnestly and as honestly as he could too. And then he followed up. He was like, it was good talking to you. Good to meet you. I'm gonna forward my information to our admissions team, and you're in the books. And I was like, yes.
Nice.
So that was cool.
Nice.
And I forgot about this part too. The Sport Lawyers Association National Convention this year is in May. I think like the third week of May, and it's in Nashville.
Dude.
Yeah. It's in Nashville. So what
You'll
I
be
did,
there.
my whole thing, because I knew about this. My whole thing was I'm going to go and I'm going to inquire about the national conference, because not only am I going to go to meet people, but I also want to see, does it make sense for me to, because it's kind of an investment, You got to pay for registration to go, which is a couple $100, and then I got to drive there, gas, hotel rooms. I got to eat eventually.
Eventually.
I'm probably going to, do Nashville stuff. Probably go to the Zanies down there again. I do every time I go.
Yep.
And so, everyone there is telling me, I express to everyone that I'm not even a law school student. I'm a grad student, prospective law school student, but, I just want to see what this association was about. Perhaps I carry membership into college, things like that. And everyone there that I said that I was considering going to the national conference were like, yeah, go. That'd be a perfect opportunity for you to learn about the association and learn about more that we can do, and to get involved at such an early time in your legal career is, more power to you. And I was like, all right, fine. I guess. So I emailed the registration people at the Sport Lawyers Association National Conference, whatever.
I imagined you saying, I emailed the founder of
Hold on.
Oh my God.
Hold on. And then, so I emailed, I was like, hi, my name is Nick. I did this, I did that. I went to the meeting in Chicago. I met these people, and it was cool. And they were telling me to go to the national conference, but I'm a grad student. And I see that on your website that the only real... Well, I'm a student, but they have student rates, but it's for law school students. And then you they have a kind of it's a general public person. If you're just trying to go just to go, it's far more expensive. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I'm interested in going, but, would it be possible for me to register for the non-member, because I wouldn't be a member of the association yet, for a non-member student at the non-member student registration cost? That's just, I'm basically asking, can I pretend to be a law school student even though I'm not? Mm-hmm. And I get an email back from the president of
wow. The whole thing.
Yeah, of the Sport Lawyers Association. She says, yeah, Nick, go ahead, register for the non-member student
nice
rate. And I was like, yes. So I'll be in Nashville for the national conference for the Sports Lawyers Association.
When is that?
Third week of May, whenever that is. The 15th through the 17th. Trying to go?
No, but that's funny.
No. I'll pass.
No, but that's funny because Gianna sent me her birthday invitation in Nashville.
In May?
At the end of May. May 30th.
I won't be there.
Yeah, no.
Tell her I can't make it. I was going to go for you, but yeah, I won't be there anymore.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, so I don't know. Maybe we got to do something after that. Got to go home and we got to record an episode or something and talk about it.
Yeah, bro. I'll leave this stuff with you.
Yeah, I'll just do a live from each
You start interviewing people?
Not
we
even
have this
interview
podcast.
people. They're doing the what's it called?
My foot fell asleep.
Wake it up. Doing the breakout rooms and doing the different presentations. I'm gonna be in the back just and now he's talking about how we should
take a listen, guys.
It's hold on, wait. Say it.
We didn't get that back here.
A little louder. Yeah, no, I won't do that. I mean, if anything, I think it'd be cool to maybe like if I could try to do like a roundup of each day while I'm there.
A
I don't
vlog? Dude,
Yeah,
you should
I
do
don't
a...
like talking to myself. If I were just like in a hotel room by myself, it'd be weird. I'll talk to like in front
So
of the
why
mirror.
don't you record and then you do... Then you talk. I'm forgetting the
Record,
word.
and then I talk.
Yeah, like you record the clips and then you like narrate it essentially. Like, oh, this was like my first
Oh, like
day,
an
and
actual
then-
video?
Yeah. Is that too much? Did I take it a step too far for
You
you?
might have, because this is more work for you. You're the editor.
Oh. Yeah, but yeah, I'll do it. I have fun.
All right, we'll figure it out. We'll do something cool with it. But yeah, that was my spring break.
Sounds pretty cool. That was only Nashville. You didn't get back to Chicago.
That was in Chicago.
What? Oh yeah. Okay.
That
Wow, I was still
That
like
was
in
Thursday,
Nashville.
because then
It's because you ended with like how the other convention is in Nashville.
Yeah.
So it took
I
me
brought
all
you
the
back
way
to Nashville.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, that was in Chicago. Because then Friday I was in Chicago. Well, Friday I was in Rosemont, and then Saturday I was in Chicago again. You were supposed to be in Chicago Saturday.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my spring break. Spring break was cool. Spring break was fun. It was a good, relaxing spring break. I think I'm kind of on the same boat as you are, though, that it wasn't like as relaxing as maybe like a full like recharge probably would have been.
Yeah.
But it was cool. It was alright.
I didn't have to go to work for a week, so
That's all that mattered.
yeah.
All right, but what's happening with the stars? It is March 20th, 2025. So this week in UAS athletics, let's jump to Friday, March 21st. That is tomorrow for us. Probably like last week.
3 weeks ago.
3
for
weeks
you
ago
guys.
for you. Baseball's in
Damn.
action. They're playing UMSL. UAS is sitting at 8-9 with a 3-4 GLVC record. Begins a 4-game GLVC series against the Tritons, who are 16-7 with a 6-2 GLVC record in St. Louis. The Prairie Stars took a 6-3 win over UIndy before falling 10-6 and 3-0 in a weathered shortened weekend series. UMSL is coming off a 4-game sweep of Lincoln, outscoring them 49-8 over the weekend. Yeah, that's a high scoring team. UAS holds a 18-16 edge in the all-time series against UMSL. So let's see what the boys can do tomorrow. At 10 a.m., women's tennis will be in action at home versus Drury. Women's tennis is 0-6, and they return home after a 5-2 loss to Purdue Northwest, looking for their first win of the season against Drury, who are 5-4, which recently upset number 20 Northwest Missouri State. The Prairie Stars trail 0-8 in the all-time series. That same time, men's tennis will also be in action at home against Drury. The UAS men's tennis team is 0-6, also returns home after a 5-2 defeat against Purdue Northwest. The Drury's men's team is 7-2 and comes home after a win over Northwest Missouri State. UAS trails the all-time series 1-7. Then at 12 and at 3 p.m. on Saturday, UAS men's baseball continue with their series against UMSL, games 2 and 3 of the 4-game series. And then at 12 and 2 as well, UAS softball will be at home playing Missouri S&T. The Prairie Stars are 17-10 and 5-3 in GLVC play. Put their perfect 9-0 home record on the line against the Miners. Whoa. Gonna beat up on some kids. No. The Missouri S&T Miners are 5-20 on the season right now and 2-4 in GLVC play. UAS splits a doubleheader with Southwest Baptist before sweeping the Rockhurst last weekend. Missouri S&T split with Maryville and dropped 2 to UMSL the past weekend. UAS leads the all-time series 22-11. And then this Sunday, March 23rd at 12 and 2 p.m., softball continues their home stand. They welcome the Panthers, who are 11 and 13 on the season and 5-2 on GLVC play to Springfield. Drury recently split with number 20 McKendree and secured a series win over Maryville, and UAS trails this series 14-19 all time. And then baseball will play their last game of the 4-game series in St. Louis at 12. Also on campus, this already happened. Last Tuesday was the whatchamacallit, the NCAA Division II Men's Basketball Midwest Regional. We hosted the Men's Midwest Regional Tournament for the National Championship, Division II National Championship playing. That was pretty cool. I went to the final with, it was me, Flacco, Chris, Manny, Alan, and then Daniel, who ran on the track team. He met us there. It was cool. It was a pretty fun game. It was pretty close until like the last 3 minutes, and then who was playing in that game? It was like the University of Lake Superior State. Yeah, Lake Superior State versus was it UMSL? I think they played UMSL. Yeah, it was UMSL because they had the behind the benches for both teams. They had like fan areas for both of them, and UMSL had like four guys with UM or UMSL spelled out on their shirts, and they were like kind of sitting front row. It's kind of funny. Me and Flacco said that they should just put it on their bodies and show like Anyway, yeah, that was a cool game. Like I was saying, it was pretty close until like the last 3 minutes, and then Lake Superior State ran away with the lead. And yeah, they're going to the national championship tournament. Pretty cool.
Nice.
Yep. But yeah, that's what's going on with the Prairie Stars. That's what's been happening on campus. But there's a little bit of news to get to. So the first thing on the list is the Tennessee the Tennessee settlement with the NCAA and their lawsuit. So way back, like last year, we talked about how Tennessee was suing the NCAA along with a bunch of other schools over utilizing NIL as a recruitment tool. So like saying, you're going to come to my school, okay, well, we can assess how much we could give you, or like NIL collectives that have an interest in Tennessee, how much they can say they're going to give you, and that can be a factor of whether the student ends up going to that school or not. And at that point, the NCAA was like, no, you can't do that, because right after Alston, they gave a bunch of rules and policies that schools had to follow, and that would have, in effect, have broken one of the policies that the NCAA created after NIL was legalized. So they went to Tennessee like, you guys can't do that, and then Tennessee was like, yeah, we can. Anyway, the Attorney General was basically saying that this is a Sherman Trust violation. It's a antitrust violation. You're interfering with not only our schools, but these students' ability to explore the market and freely trade and understand their value. So now that the House settlement came through, and it looks like the NCAA is going to have to fork up a lot of money in back pay to athletes. There's been a lot of questions about how the House ruling is going to, or whether it actually finally goes through. Because there's like some pressing questions about how NILs can be administered and how they can be governed and who's going to take care of them, who's allowed to, who can't. All these questions, and one of the big ones is regarding recruiting. How much can it be used as a recruiting tool for universities? Mm-hmm. And this case pretty much answers that question. So a little bit of backstory. This case shook the college sports world in early 2024, beginning with the NCAA investigating into the University of Tennessee athletics over allegations of breaking NIL rules, and seemingly ending with the NCAA's pause of those NIL rules. On January 31st, the Tennessee Attorney General Jonathan Skermetti sued the NCAA to loosen its stronghold over NIL. That led to a showdown in federal courthouse in Greensville, Tennessee, 2 weeks following. A federal judge granted a preliminary injunction which suspended the NCAA's rules on NIL benefits for athletes. Nearly a month later, the NCAA paused all investigations related to NIL, including its probe into UT. Attorney generals from Virginia, Florida, New York, and Washington, D.C. joined this same lawsuit soon after it was filed, and the NCAA never seriously countered. So that was from, I think it was from WKRN. No, it's from Knox News, sorry. But yeah, so that's basically how we got to this point. And now, what this case, or what the settlement does, is it essentially permits high school athletes to negotiate NIL contracts with prospective schools before even committing. So now they can assess their value. How much would I be getting paid if I went to this school, based on the collectives that work for you guys, or even private actors, because that's another thing too. But WKRN, it's an ABC channel. They reported on some of the more key points in what this case means for student athletes, and they have that it empowers student athletes during recruitment, so it guarantees future student athletes and current student athletes in the transfer portal can freely negotiate for their NIL before they commit to a specific school. It also allows third parties to negotiate NIL deals with prospective student athletes during the standard recruiting windows. It enables schools to provide prospective student athletes with support and assistance regarding NIL opportunities during the recruitment process. It prohibits the NCAA from undermining or circumventing these provisions through future actions, and the NCAA must publicize any proposed NIL changes for the next 5 years and must meet with the states before any proposed NIL changes can go into effect. I think that's a very strong point at the end, the established increased transparency point. I think that's something that kind of goes under the radar in this case because of what it means for the House ruling or the House settlement, which we'll get into a little bit, and how it kind of conflicts a little bit. But just making the NCAA more transparent on when they think that they should have a say in NIL dealings, and whether they will in the future is another question that we'll get into. But as of right now, I think this sounds like a good settlement, but there's the potential for it to conflict with the House settlement, which is the one that's happening in California. The much bigger case that essentially says that the NCAA has to pay $20.8 billion over however many years to schools, and then essentially set the cap at how much, or like a salary cap kind of, I say it with air quotes, over how much schools can pay student athletes for regarding revenue sharing and NIL deals directly with the school. And the big thing here is, I saw this on a LinkedIn post from Jason Montgomery. He's a pretty good follow on LinkedIn. He kind of pointed out that there could be some conflicts with how the Tennessee judgment and how the House settlement views NIL corporations, essentially, or NIL deals, basically. The Tennessee judgment versus how the House settlement attempts to address NIL collectives and boosters using NIL to recruit athletes is kind of what is at issue here. The Tennessee judgment defines commercial NIL compensation as a quid pro quo, which is Latin for this for that. So it's a deal arrangement that contains an agreement to pay an individual for work that makes use of his or her NIL. And I think this last part is important. Not for athletic work or achievement, for work never performed. So that's the definition that the Tennessee case is giving to, I guess, what would constitute a proper NIL deal. And that it's, I'm just paying you for the use of your name, image, and likeness, and for my brand, or there doesn't have to be some kind of either athletic or achievement or performative or anything kind of given in return for me using your name, image, and likeness. Like to say, I don't know, say I'm the owner of Stanley water bottles, just because it's in front of me. That's what I'm looking at. And I want to sign you to an NIL deal. But it just so happens that this NIL deal comes with the caveat that you go to the University of Illinois Springfield. All right, so you're going to come, and I'm going to pay you for an NIL deal, and that's it. I can use your name and say, Valeria endorses Stanley. She thinks Stanley is the best, and I'm paying you to have the ability to do that, or puts the picture of you on a billboard with holding a Stanley Cup or something like that. But it's not reliant on you doing any kind of athletic performance or any kind of actual work performed. I think is kind of the important part here that makes it so broad. and kind of problematic for what House is trying to do. Because if we go to the House settlement provides a much narrower definition of what is permissible NIL for associated entities, which are NIL collectives, or individuals, which are boosters. And now let's remember that collectives are groups of donors who pool resources to create NIL opportunities for students. So it could be like a bunch of business owners, like local businesses, that come together and say, we're going to do this and try to get athletes to come to UIS. While boosters are individuals or entities who promote a school's athletic program that may assist in providing benefits to student athletes. So it's just, me, I'm a billionaire. I really want you to come play for my school. I'm going to pay you. I'm a booster for the university. I'm going to pay you to come play for UIS. But obviously for use of your NIL. Article 4, Section 3 of the amended injunctive relief settlement in House states such clarifying rule changes may include prohibiting NIL payments by collectives or boosters to current or prospective student athletes unless the license payment is for a valid business purpose related to the promotion or endorsement of goods or services provided to the general public for profit, with compensation rates and terms consistent with the compensation paid to similarly situated individuals with comparable NIL value. So, yeah, I think this puts them in direct conflict with each other in how broadly the Tennessee judgment defines what an NIL deal is and how narrowly the House settlement seeks to define it. And I think it more comes down to the involvement of the collective in the recruitment process. I think that's kind of what the main issue is in that case. And and I have this point here. Well, does it actually conflict, or does it make it easier? Does this make House easier to pass? Because this is another article I found. I think this was a Sportico article. Sportico article. Say that 5 times fast. And it kind of makes the point that it answers, like I said, it answers one of the big questions that was left from the House settlement. And that, let me see what the article says. The settlement is expected to remove a potential complication for the NCAA as it seeks to convince U.S. District Judge Claudia Wilkin to grant final approval on the settlements resolving House, Carter, and Hubbard antitrust litigations. So that's basically what I just said. Among the range of objections and criticisms of the House settlement is that it features restrictions on NIL collectives and more broadly on NIL that could run afoul of laws and court rulings. Of particular note is that NIL deals with certain boosters and collectives will be permitted only if the NIL money is paid for a valid business purpose to promote goods and services provided to the general public for profit with payments at fair market value, which is what we read from the LinkedIn post.
Yes.
An NCAA spokesperson said in a statement that the settlement resolves the issues Tennessee and other involved states raise without posing an obstacle to completing House, Carter, and Hubbard settlements. The official added that the NCAA anticipates full terms will be released later in the spring. So, the primary big question that was answered from the Tennessee settlement for the House settlement to be, I think, approved a lot more. I don't know if it's a lot easier, maybe more like Judge Wilkins will be able to approve the settlement with a lot more certainty that there isn't as many questions on the back end, is the recruitment involvement that boosters and collectives can have, and I guess NIL deals can have in the recruitment process for student athletes. Yeah.
Good thoughts.
Thanks. And the main thing here is that the NCAA essentially, like it always has, is trying to maintain as much control as it can over NIL deals and governing them and saying what can and what can't happen. And they like House the way it is because it still gives them a little bit of room to kind of, monitor what boosters and collectives are doing. Tennessee is saying that no, you should allow them to be in that recruitment process to allow these students to realize and see what their potential value could be by playing for a particular school or even a particular conference. Now, here's the next thing we're getting to. with the NCAA thinking that it should have all of this control over NIL deals and like this growing monetary involvement that the business world is having in college sports.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a revelation recently that's kind of, I think it's pretty cool. It's kind of something that we talked about a while ago. I don't remember that you were even here for this. You might have been. I'm trying to think if this was an episode with Chris or not. But basically what's happening is the Power 5 conferences are seeking to create, or they aren't seeking to create, they have created an LLC, which is a business that is going to be tasked with monitoring and taking care of all of this new NIL world. This is from a Yahoo Sports article. A committee of the Power 5 conferences, which are the ACC, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the SEC, and the Pac-12. Administrators took significant steps this week toward the creation of a new entity that will govern the involving professionalized aspects of college sport, a milestone moment in the industry's history. The newly created LLC, overseen by a CEO or executive director, is centered on a new enforcement arm to police the violators of the industry's new salary cap, which is coming as a result of the House ruling, and is expected to feature revenue sharing policies and a corresponding penalty structure for violators. Now, this new company, if you want to call it, seems to be acting in addition to the NCAA at the moment, because it seems that the NCAA will still be around and maintaining its role over like minor things like eligibility, well, not minor things, but I guess less monetarily focused things like eligibility, maybe even the transfer portal still, and minor infractions. And this new LLC, it's still unnamed, so it's just an LLC. Will be mainly handling NIL and other monetary aspects of college sports, like possibly employment status, collective bargaining if that ever comes about, and arbitration. So like when people keep suing the NCAA, now that there's an I guess an LLC that's taking care of all of that monetary stuff with deals and NILs and even the evaluation of what is the proper monetary value of this student in particular. They sue them instead of the NCAA, kind of gets them off their plate. And I think that this could, if this continues to develop and becomes something bigger, this creates a much easier path. Whether the NCAA likes this or not, it creates a much easier path for employment statuses for college athletes. Because what it does is then it allows college athletes to be employees of an entity that isn't the NCAA themselves. So it gives NCAA what they want in not having college athletes be their employees, but it also allows students to be properly compensated by, we don't know if it's effective yet, but by some kind of governing body that doesn't have, I guess, political interests in mind, which the NCAA kind of does, being a non-for-profit. They're always seeking some kind of antitrust exemption. Well, now you don't have to be involved in the business at all. We're going to put this up to an actual company. So if something goes wrong on that end, it's on them and it's not on the NCAA. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they'll be interrelated in some ways, so that could get confusing. But for the time being, the way that it looks, I think that'd be a good move for them. Now, who should run this is kind of another thing you got to consider. Because right now you have the NCAA, who's being run by Charlie Baker, who's a former politician. So he knows what it's like to be in the public eye. And he knows what it's like to, take scrutiny, answer hard questions, field, very harsh media. He's
trained already.
He's trained, yeah. He's like a Roger Goodell who's used to not being liked, or think of any owner of a large corporation, or I heard this early. It's a scary world right now to be a CEO in this world because of stuff. But whoever is gonna man that role, I think you have to start considering what their interests would be. So if you take a politician like Charlie Baker, what's his prerogative? Is it to... Well, obviously, now this is a business. So whoever the CEO is, or the executive, or the chairman, or whatever you want to call them, who's ever running this thing, their main prerogative, their main focus is profit. Now, it's not, the NCAA's main focus is amateur athletics and ensuring these students can play and yada, yada, yada. And fairness in sports and, that's fine. This new business aspect that is monitoring how much students can make, how much they can make, who can work with them, and a potential collective bargaining deal for all the student athletes.
They're focused on the money.
They're focused on the money. They're focused on...
They're a corporation above all.
Pretty much, yeah. They're a corporation. So, you put a politician in there. I don't know. But he would know how to field those kind of questions like a Charlie Baker would. And, you can put a former NCAA executive. You can put one of the presidents right now of the big, of the Power 5, the SEC guy or the Big Ten, or obviously someone who helped start this thing would be interested in sitting in that role. But
what if they do like a former, like, athlete?
I actually heard the theory that it could be Andrew Luck. He was he went to Stanford. Came out of Stanford, was one of the best NFL prospects ever. He played, I think 5 years in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the greatest quarterback play you've ever seen, and then retired early. Just because I think it's because the Colts organization sucked, which is the organization he plays with. But he's one of the smartest players to have ever played the game, but also one of the most talented quarterbacks ever. And right now, I think he's at Stanford doing something with their athletics program. And he has the background, he has the knowledge for sure to kind of man that role. But it'd be interesting to see. I've also heard of the idea that Nick Saban, the former Alabama football coach that retired, of him possibly taking up that role of manning this, but that made zero sense to me.
I would feel like he would go more for money.
No, I think he wouldn't do it at all, because the whole reason he left was because of this whole changing world of the college sports where I got to pay people. And he said this himself, where it's like, where now these players are coming in like I owe them something.
Yeah, they're not like authentic. They're not playing to play.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's hard to say, but that's why he left, is because he didn't want to have to deal with these kids, basically, that feel entitled to millions and millions of dollars, which, whether they are or they aren't, is, more power to them to retire and be made fun of by Shane Gillis. But I don't know. I think whoever is going to end up taking this role is going to be vetted by pretty much all of the big heads at the Power 5. And it's going to be someone, I think, I think it should be someone with the interests of the students in mind, but I think it's going to more so be someone with the interests of the conferences in mind, and ensuring that they can have fair competition amongst each other to compete for, I guess, bringing these students onto their athletic programs. Yeah, that's what's going on.
It's very interesting.
Now, the last thing, it's kind of fun. Did you see that video of the girl?
Yes.
Of the girl that smacked her with the...
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your opinion? My opinion is she literally smacked her in the back of the head.
Okay, so for anyone that hasn't seen it, in Virginia, they were having their state championship, their state track championship, and... do I even want to try and find names?
Their names are in the title.
Well, I mean, they're in the article. You can go find the article if you really want to find it, but I won't say names. But, so the alleged attacker was running with her baton, and the girl behind her, the victim behind her, was running and was passing her from the outside. They're turning the corner to the left. They were turning the corner, and the alleged attacker was kind of on the inside, and the victim was running to the outside, passes her, and the alleged attacker, allegedly,
smacked her,
bonked her over the head with the baton.
In the head, and the victim suffered a concussion and I read a fractured skull. Yeah. Or a potentially fractured skull.
Yeah, potentially fractured skull. And obviously she went out of the race, and the alleged attacker was also disqualified, and the entire team was disqualified from competitions that day, and it was a whole thing. And
it was
I think
crazy.
it's crazy because here's what the alleged attacker said in an interview. Did you read this? She says, "She was touching me to the point where I was pumping my arm, and the baton was hitting her arm." I lose my balance, my whole body turns, and then I pump my arms, so she got hit.
Dude, she didn't make no sense. Because one, like, she said something along those lines, like when it was like the news, whatever, they were showing the video and she was talking. And then, but like she was running perfectly fine. Like her arms were like at her sides going forward. And then the girl started passing her, and then her arm all of a sudden wasn't like behind her. And she was like, oh, my arm got stuck in that position. But like,
like
you don't like you would go like this if your arm is like stuck behind her. Yeah. Not like, right? And then she hit the girl. And then she like kept running.
Yeah, and it looked like she wound up again to hit her. Yeah. Well, hold on. I think it was like a instinct almost. Yeah. Like, oh, she's passing me. Boom. Boss. And then she realized what she did, and then
she like, almost stopped.
I thought she was trying to like play it off, like, oh my god, I'm losing my balance. Yeah. And like flailing her arms kind of at the end. Yeah. And it was just like, what are you doing? Oh my goodness. And then
wasn't she like? She is gonna get charged.
She's charged, yeah. Yeah. The victim was quoted as saying that as we got around the curve, she kept bumping me in my arm. We finally got off the curve. I slowly started passing her, and she hit me with the baton, which is that looks like that's exactly what happened. And then, I guess later that week or something, there was a rally held in support of the Virginia runner charged with assault and viral baton incident.
What a world we live in.
What a world. Yeah, the Brookville runner, that's where the victim ran for, has a concussion, a possibly fractured skull, according to the Lynchburg Commonwealth Attorney. Yeah, she's facing 1 account of assault and battery. Whoa, okay.
Bro, she didn't even say sorry, though.
Yeah, she didn't. Yeah, I heard that.
Like, they had to ask her. No, nobody. Yeah. Like, they had to tell her, like, yo, you have to say sorry. Yeah. Which is so crazy because, like, I get it, sports, competition, whatnot. But, like, if I hit you on accident, like, bro, I'd stop. Like, it might cost me, like, the race. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it would be, like, morally right or, like, whatever to, like, stop for the person that you just hit.
Or, like, say sorry at the end.
Yeah, like, my bad. Keep running. Yeah. Nothing.
My bad. Yeah, it was crazy. So then they had this rally, and there was a bunch of actually pretty interesting people here. The president of the Portsmouth NAACP was there. President of the United States. Donald Trump. No. The president of the Portsmouth NAACP was there, and he was saying that she's not an attacker. This student is an honor student at the high school that she goes to, and we are not going to sit back and allow the criminal justice system to find her. And her mom was even there, the alleged attacker, and she said, "My baby don't do this." No, my baby didn't do it. I know who I raised. I'm going to stand up for mine. 10 toes down. Period. And let me just say, no, hold on. No. Take the period off of that sentence. No. If my mom saw me do something like that.
My mom would beat me up.
My mom would beat me with the baton. If I were charged for battery and assault for that, she probably would have asked the judge to give me more time.
She would have been like, bro, all the power of the law to him.
Yeah, make this a public case. Like, put his face everywhere.
You're on a public trial. Like the Johnny Depp trials.
I'm the new O.J. Simpson. I'm gonna be acquitted. No. Oh. But that's crazy. That is crazy. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what's going on. That was pretty interesting. That was a pretty interesting lineup of stuff we had to talk about today, huh?
Yeah. We spent like almost half an hour on spring break.
Wait, some pretty pertinent stuff happened, you know? Yeah. Some stuff coming up in the future, some stuff coming up a little bit farther down the future, but yeah, a lot of good things happening. And you know, we talk about all these things that are going on, and obviously I give you a lot of updates on what was happening in like the legal world and the lawsuits and the settlements and yada yada yada. I'm just here to give you, you know, an idea of what's going on and try to put it in plain English. I don't know what's gonna happen with this stuff, like for sure. You know, so far my predictions have been pretty good though. You know, I was saying that the NCAA is gonna lose a lot of power. I said the NCAA was gonna close. I think that could be coming soon still, but
next week. Breaking news, guys.
Breaking news. I was right. But that would be breaking news. But
it's like a 1 a.m. episode.
But yeah, that's what's going on. Yeah, anything else?
No. I never have anything at the end.
All right, we'll catch you guys next week. Love you. Bye.